If you were following along in the previous lesson, we started a tour of our new welcome screen, and we now know it's set up like a booklet. And one of the tabs we can access is the What's New tab. And that's where we're going to go in this lesson to talk about the new and enhanced features of Corel Draw X4. As we move through the movies in this title, we'll be using some of those new or enhanced features. So let's click What's New right now. You might be thinking, hey, I closed up my welcome screen. I went to the top right corner and clicked the close button. How do I get that back? Well, here in Draw, you'll notice there is a button here on the toolbar that we'll be talking about when we tour the user interface. And as I hover over it, you can see it says Welcome Screen. I can always go back to the welcome screen at any time by clicking this button, even if the welcome screen doesn't launch by default every time I launch Corel Draw. And now we're going to go over to the What's New tab. Now, under What's New, you can see there's three sections: Layout and Text Editing, Design Assets, and Workflow. Each of these has a description down below of some of the content in those sections. So I can go directly to a section, Layout and Text Editing, or I can click this little navigation button down here. This button's pointing to the right because I'm on the first page of the section, and when I click on it, it will take me to Layout and Text Editing. The path shows up here across the top. Now I've got two buttons in my navigation area. If I want to go back, I could do that and go directly to Layout and Text Editing by clicking it here on the right half of my page. So here you can see that this section called Layout and Text Editing has 6 new or enhanced features like independent layers. And as I click on these, I get a quick description of each as it expands. So under independent layers now, you can see that we can set up independent layers on our various pages in a document, meaning we can set up, for example, guidelines for individual pages, so they're different on each of those pages, but set up guidelines on a master that will stretch throughout the entire document. You've got both options now. There's also the ability to create tables, new interactive tables. And this is great for trying to organize text and graphics together, for example, and you want things to line up properly. You can put them in a table. And if you've ever done any web design, you know that that's a great way to lay out a web page using a table that's invisible on the web page itself, but it's a great way to line up text with graphics and so on. So you've got that now in Corel Draw. Something called Live Text Preview. This is a great new feature that's very intuitive. It lets you interact with text on your screen and experiment with different settings without actually choosing those settings. So once you've got the look that you're after, you can then apply that change so you can actually see what it's going to look like before you make that application. I like that. Kind of like a real-time preview. Easy font identification through something called What the Font. If, for example, you've received a file from someone else and you're having difficulty identifying the fonts that were used, you can capture a font and send it to whatthefont.com. You can see it's available in English only, and it will identify your font for you. And then that'll help you if you plan on working on that file, for example, and you want to keep things consistent. Something you can do now is take paragraph text and mirror it. And keep in mind, we're going to be doing all this stuff as we move through the lessons in this title. We will be working with paragraph text, and I'll show you how to mirror it, something you couldn't do before. So if you wanted to, for example, have a reflection of your paragraph text, you can see the mirror option allows you to do that now. And it's interactive. I kind of like that. You can do it vertically or horizontally. It's up to you. There's better support for quotation marks. If you work in multiple languages, you know that quotation marks are styled differently in different languages. So here you can see that we can actually work with different styles of quotation marks depending on the language we're working in. Kind of cool. Now to go to the next section, I can click the right arrow, the right navigation button, or I could go back and just click right on Design Assets. Exact same thing happens. Takes me to the Design Assets section, and you can see down here I've got several new or enhanced features as well, including this first one, which is support for raw camera files. If you have a digital camera and it's capable of storing your photos, your images in that raw format, meaning there are no adjustments made for brightness or contrast or saturation, etc., you're left with what's called a raw file, and you've got raw camera file support now in Corel Draw, so you can bring them right into Draw. Kind of cool. Enhanced compatibility. Now, Draw has always been compatible with other applications out there, but it's been even further improved now. Supported file formats now include, you can see Illustrator CS3 and Photoshop CS3, all kinds of different formats that can be imported and in some cases exported as well from Corel Draw. We're going to be looking at importing and exporting in this title. There's a new search capability for templates. There are lots of templates to choose from, and when you're starting a new project, you can get a great head start using a template. Well, templates are even easier to find right now, at least to find the right template that's on your computer. There's a browse, a preview, and search options that we'll talk about later on when we create a new file from a template. There are extras, and when we click on extras, you can see how it expands to tell us that the Graphic Suite X4 disk puts 4,000 new clip art images at your fingertips. That's a lot of clip art images. Now, one of the options during installation is to install all of those directly on your computer, or you can access them from the install CD. It's up to you. I've chosen to put all of mine on my computer. I have plenty of room for it, so I really do have them at my fingertips. There's some new fonts as well, an extended selection of new fonts, including single line engraving fonts, great for those people who are using Draw to create engravings. You can see some additional language support down here as well. Enhanced search functionality, so you can use keywords and notes and file types. You can search by date and all kinds of cool features to allow you to find and keep track of your work here in Corel Draw. Updated user interface that we'll be talking about as we explore the new user interface. And there's something called thumbnails now. So you've got some redesigned icons and menus and controls in the application. It gives you a new, fresh look and more intuitive working environment. And we'll be exploring that in detail when we open up a file and explore our user interface. Helps you stay organized too. Let's move to that third section. I'm going to click my right navigation button down here to go to the workflow section here, where you'll see something called Power Trace. This is really nice. There are some enhancements to Power Trace now, like centerline tracing for more accurate curves and strokes for tracing technical illustrations and line drawings or signatures. So you can take a bitmap image and trace it and turn it into a vector image. This will all make better sense when we talk more about the differences between bitmap and vector images and the advantages of each. You can go to review and collaboration tools here by clicking this to see that there's something called Concept Share, a valuable collaboration tool if you plan on working with others on projects. You can get real-time feedback from clients, for example, or colleagues if you're collaborating on a project. Concept Share is something we'll look at later on. Improved print merge functionality. So if you're going to be merging, for example, names and addresses to create invitations or labels, it's a lot easier to do now in Corel Draw X4. There's search capability again when saving and opening files. There's those keywords, and you can search by author and subject and date and so on. Automatic product updates is another option. Now you can receive messages and information about new content and product updates. We saw from the Updates tab in the previous lesson where you can go to set all of that up. And when we're done with the welcome screen, we click the Close button up here. In fact, we can't do anything in Corel Draw unless we go back to Quick Start and make a selection from here, or close this up and make our selections from the menus or the toolbars. So in the next lesson, we'll open up a file and take a tour of this user interface to get you comfortable in your surroundings.